that we have to be careful of what we say.
So there was some
Another road.
spirited discussion.
Don, or Dan, are you sitting with us?
Marty was briefing some people in the public and saying repeatedly, if the village decides they want to be part of this project, they're still deciding now, if they want to be part of this project.
When was this?
Tonight. Come on. Really? So I scolded him, and Tim scolded him, and Dan scolded him, but he, yeah. All right, whatever.
What does it take?
I guess that resolutions aren't enough.
What does it take? Resolution is a binding matter. Lawful binding matter. Well, anyhow.
Tom,
Yes.
how are you, sir?
How am I? I'm not bad. I emptied my
If the work is
last
done by the
water
21st,
barrel,
do we have to
cleaned it,
reconvene in order
turned it
to-
over,
No,
disassembled all the parts,
Whatever
stored
we
them,
decide, it can be
and reattached
something where
the
we're taking action based
downspout.
on what we say
So
tonight.
Okay, perfect.
I'm ready for the winter.
So everybody's picking Don in your little contest.
From on top of the gatehouse.
On top
Well,
of
who
the
so
gate.
far? It was Rebecca and
Rebecca and Katie picked
Pretty
Don.
good.
and Katie.
I know that spot. I've walked on this
I'm
spot.
gonna guess it was not me.
Yeah,
It's gorgeous.
I love
You're
it.
gonna guess it's not you.
Not me.
We
I know
yeah,
between
we have this extraordinary
washing diapers
Two
and
adults,
Physical.
three kids, right? That's who lives in your house.
Well, that's up to us.
place, just
Is anyone else from the town?
belongs to us.
No, Carol,
Lovely.
Susan is not, I don't
Well,
know.
Neil was across the way at the Watershed
I know,
Alliance.
he told me that we're still going, I was just swing by, but I think that ours will not be as.
Ours is gonna be short.
That's my point, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
Can
it's-
he sit here just for this short meeting? Yeah.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
I didn't even bring my pen.
Joint pen,
No, yeah, joint.
consolidation.
What was I trying to explain that today to somebody
Rebecca,
about the difference
It's gonna
between
be here.
consolidation as it was conceived and what we're doing.
yeah, she wrote
And
back to an email
some-
like an hour.
somebody was interested in this.
Well, I keep reading that the village dissolves and all this paperwork that I'm looking at.
Let's go, Marty.
Never says if the town dissolves.
No soda
I
today?
think it can.
No soda today?
No, I don't just,
Counties and towns.
All right.
it's just rather jarring to keep reading it.
Counties and towns are the structure,
I don't go very far
villages and the
without.
city.
That's why the village could expand townwide.
Should be water instead of coke.
Whatever it takes to get through a late meeting.
not the kids'
Yeah,
table.
you're
the
above
big
4% in the
kids'
polls, man.
Big kids.
table. You wanna go put these
I
on?
turn it on and off, yeah.
Welcome.
They're on. They're already on.
Is this your first time?
They are on, okay.
Yeah, it is, wow.
So let's call the meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
Liberty and justice for all.
So we're going to jump right into this agenda and have a presentation followed by some Q&A regarding the proposed joint town and village municipal center that includes town and village offices as well as a court and police station. And Councilman Marty Irwin is going to present some of the key facts regarding this project, as he's spent an enormous amount of time on the project so far. So Marty, I'm going to hand this mic over to you.
As we know, the town began this effort quite some time ago because it knew it had to replace the moldy town hall building. And when I was asked to join the town board in June, I was also asked to lead the effort to create the new town hall. And Susan and I agreed that we would do all we could to include the village as well as the town in the project, so that it was indeed a joint town-village project. And that's what we're working on. We're getting closer and closer towards that goal. We've described to our boards one possible way to do this by using a conduit of a local development corporation. And we've asked attorneys to draft documents associated with the creation and operation of that LDC, resolutions that each of our boards would presumably eventually pass that would allow to form the corporation, and then the bylaws for it and the articles of incorporation for it. Also, we've asked attorneys to draft an IMA, an intermunicipal agreement between the town and the village. And most recently, we've asked, the town has engaged an attorney other than its normal Joe Moriello, because Joe was very busy. So we've engaged the firm of Wallace & Wallace out of Poughkeepsie to act as the town's attorney, like Will Rogers is the village's attorney in this particular, Will Frank, I'm sorry, as he is in this transaction. So we've asked them to draft that. We haven't yet seen the draft of that lease, but as soon as it's sent to us, and it's already been discussed, I know, with Will Frank in the preparation of it, and with Ken Bond as well. So hopefully the first draft that I see in a day or two, I hope, will reflect something that's generally agreeable to everybody among the attorneys anyway. So once we have that, we can then work out the very important details that are included in that, not the least of which is how do we split the costs of ownership for paying for the building as well as for operating and managing the building, and then what happens to the building after the bonds are paid off, presumably in 20 years. So lots of details still to work out. The floor plans, we know a lot about where the police will be and how much space they'll use and how that is configured. Similarly for the Justice Court. The rest of the building, as the architect said when he was here on December 1st and made his presentation with the 6-foot-long banner, as soon as he's given the go-ahead to continue to draw, and knowing that the village and the town have finalized their documents and are indeed both going to be there, he's ready to charge ahead again. We've met with him since then. We've asked him how long he thought it would take once we've given that nod to finish the schematic design drawings, the very first phase of the process. And he has indicated 6 weeks. 6 weeks, I think he said, from when we give him that nod. So that reflects a very different schedule because of these halts. The halt when we were going to open the architectural review interview process, and now while we want to finalize all of the details before proceeding. Questions?
I don't really have any additional questions besides what we've talked about as joint boards as well as the individual village board. If anyone else has any ongoing questions about where we are in terms of the process.
The only question that I have is why 6 weeks? 6 weeks seems like a relatively long time given the preparation that he's already had. I mean, he's known about the project and he knows about the approximate uses that we would put the building to, and he knows where the police and the courts are going. He knows about the security issues already. So he's already worked out quite a few of the components of a complete architectural design for an only 25,000 square foot facility. Just wondering.
No, that's a good question.
Can I make one correction, though? It's
Yeah, I'll get to it, how big it
The
is.
current estimate is above 25K.
It's
closer to
31,
31K.
maybe 32.
31.
Plus
Yeah.
a basement.
So but that's because, as Joe Hurwitz said when he had the presentation on the first, he said this is a work in progress. And to a certain extent, we have gotten out of sequence in the construction industry. When you're building something, it's a known fact that if you don't follow the normal course of A before B before C before D, that you're going to run into problems down the road. Well, we got out of sequence. That's because the town hired Joe to do a conceptual site plan study, assuming that it was just the town building a new town hall for the town. And then, as I said, when I was invited to join the board and reflected that I thought it should be an effort of the town and the village, Susan said, well, that's been my thinking too. So now the direction changed somewhat from just a building to accommodate the town to a building to potentially accommodate the town and the village. The first step in the design process after doing the concept studies would be to do what's called programming. It's a short period of time. It's go talk to everybody, find out what their needs are, how their work flows. The architect is now doing that. We've seen a draft of it and reviewed it, we being Tim and I. Were you with us when we did that? No, this was this morning? Yesterday. I've lost track of the days.
No, the other evening, and Neil was also there.
Yeah,
It was
so
when we were also meeting with Michael Burr from the Microgrid Institute.
Yes,
It was at that same
yes.
meeting.
Thank you for refreshing my memory. But we know that is a work in progress also. So really, that needs to be done first. It says, here's the spaces that we need, here's how big each of those spaces, and now you can go do your massing study and say, I can put those little boxes of those spaces together as they need to be within the shell, the frame of the building. But we got out of sequence.
Okay.
The police and the court, probably not a problem to be out of sequence, because you need those spaces no matter who the rest of the users are in the building, and no matter what other spaces they need in the building. The relationship of those isn't going to change a lot no matter what the rest of the building is configured, how the rest of the building is configured. So why will it take another 6 weeks? We don't yet have a firm arrangement, although we fully expect to have a firm arrangement between the town and the village. If, for any reason, it never got to that closing, and we asked the architect to proceed, then whatever he does going forward from now, from when he was here first and said, I really need more information to proceed, there'd be a financial consequence to that. His contract doesn't allow for us to say, well, go ahead and design it this way, but if it doesn't work that way, we're going to ask you to redesign it, but we don't expect you to send us a bill. He would send us a change order. And certainly, as is known, I was certainly pushing to get documents approved at meetings this month so that all of the business arrangement was behind us. We didn't get there.
Okay, so that may be the answer to my question then, is we don't yet have the final MOU, we don't have the final document for the corporation, the LDC. So once we have the LDC in place, once we have the MOU in place,
And the
he
lease
gets the
too, Tom.
nod, then, you know,
Then he can charge ahead again. And we already have addressed so much of the building, the
Yeah.
police and the court and the concept of the rest of the space.
okay, thank you.
And I feel pretty comfortable that we've done a fair amount of work looking at the draft IMA, and our executive building committee has gotten together and identified topics that we wanted to ask the attorney for clarification on. We've added some items that we thought would make sense to include in that IMA. The same thing with the bylaws related to the local development corp. So, we continue to flesh out details. We continue to interface with the attorneys, and we're not going to. We have shared those draft documents beyond just the executive building committee with our full boards.
Yeah.
But I think it only makes sense to present a final document, if we're ready to look to get the full board support, and not beforehand.
And what I have been hearing, I think others share it, most recently is there's been a lot of discomfort among board members, both sides, not looking to any one board or any one member, as well as the public, as well as our municipal space committee, when Dave Lent and Josh Honig have stood up and and spoken rather forcefully about their concerns about the details. So that's why we've engaged other counsel as a town and asked them to draft a lease, because that, along with the IMA and the bylaws, the whole business transaction is pretty much spelled out among those three documents. And that's not to say there wouldn't be other things later on we would come up that we'd have to talk about, but it means everything's pretty much agreed to by all parties.
That's how I've been feeling as you have been meeting as an executive committee, the four of you who surround me. So I've been actually quite comfortable with the progress being made, which may be why I would have anticipated a somewhat faster motion on the actual design of the building after those documents are all effected.
Yeah, and I gotta say too, is that we at one point had talked about a scenario where this would be the meeting where the village would potentially be looking at adopting an MOU and the bylaws. But what we did was, as we were reviewing the documents, we just thought there were some areas we wanted additional clarification on. You know, we want to do this right. We're also going into this realizing that there's certain scenarios that we're simply not going to be able to think of, but we're going to try to get as many as we possibly can before we get there.
And I think, as I said at a previous meeting, hearing from multiple voices makes us better, makes us smarter. If there are things we haven't thought of, opening this up to as many voices as possible, and that's one of the reasons we're here tonight. And I think we're going to do this again, a similar thing, ideally at the town in January, to have a second session, which is not a couple days before major holidays. But I think hearing questions will only make us better and stronger. So that's one of the reasons we're here. And I certainly want to hear from anyone who wants to ask questions this evening.
Yeah, I'm okay being patient and working on a document, taking a couple of extra weeks, because the expectation is to have a document that's going to last for 50 years. So, and I spoke with the supervisor from Marbletown yesterday, and Marbletown and Rosendale have an IMA because they have a building that they share, and they feel that they spent a great deal of time dotting I's and crossing T's to come up with their IMA. So our building committee is saying, great, what can we take from that document, and could it be used to enhance some details within our own IMA? And Marty and I were commenting on how we both were looking at it and felt pretty good that several topics we felt we had already addressed, and some of our coverage on some potentially challenging topics was probably a bit more robust.
I think you probably will be able to hear me. Looking at our draft bylaws, it's definitely a draft because there's a different township that's named in it, yeah.
Is that the bylaws
It's
or the
a-
resolution?
Yeah,
Bylaws, yeah.
That's
So, obviously, a
that's like
draft
about
borrowed, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's about a month or 6 weeks old.
In a computer in an attorney's office.
Yes.
You'd like to think they would pay attention to that and change tuxedo to New Paltz, but
That's why we're here.
It's been changed now.
yes.
Yeah.
So what are we waiting for now? A comment from the public or further discussion among the board members?
Any further discussion amongst board members or questions from the public? Michael, you want to come and grab the mic and ask a question? Sure. Just double check that it's on.
Doesn't seem to be.
Michael Zeeler. So I apologize, I came in late. You may have, I actually thought this was a presentation this evening that was going to show pictures and things of that sort, but maybe I'm jumping ahead. In any event, I was curious if you have in your schedule when this would be coming to the Village Planning Board for application review.
We haven't necessarily discussed that, but we also were under the impression that typical planning board review was not required, considering this was in its own zone. But I could be wrong about that, but
In its own zone, I'm not sure what you mean.
you do not think, right?
You think,
Like, I don't-
you think he's correct? What do you mean it's in its own zone?
I don't believe this property is part of the recently rezoned NBR district.
No, it's not.
It's not? Okay.
It's in the R2 district.
That was a surprise to me.
That's a surprise to me.
I thought it was in the news zone, and I was told, no, it's not. Actually,
Okay,
the architect was too.
all right.
I mean,
Well, it's
our boards have discussed.
Still in the village, so,
It's still in the village.
It's still located within the village bounds, but it's currently town land,
yeah, so,
so it doesn't necessarily need your review or your approval. It's the law.
Our
You
understand.
don't even have to file. the
Well,
village-
actually,
Okay.
Stacy,
Yeah,
it'd
go
be
ahead.
great if you, no, but please come up and use the mic, that's all.
Yeah.
Actually, the way I believe it goes is the town need not follow, it's a little strange, and you should do what your laws say, but the town need not follow its own zoning laws, and neither does the village. The village does not have to follow its own zoning laws. So therefore, if the town builds on town property within the village, they don't have to send it to your planning board for approval. They
Okay.
don't have to ask the village for approval, and vice versa with the village.
Is it like a relation with the college?
Yes. And typically, your own municipality takes care of your own municipality. So like the town has buildings throughout the village, we take care of those buildings.
sure, that's fine.
We inspect them, we do all that. The village doesn't have any governance over it.
Well, that's fine,
So-
but from the point of view of building a building within a municipality, I would assume that
But it's a
you would-
municipal building.
Well, that's the
I
exception.
mean, you know,
Okay. I mean,
the town and village boards, you know, may decide to take the plan and send it to the planning board for comment,
Right,
but they don't necessarily need your approval.
okay. that's-
That was my understanding from the beginning of this process.
Okay.
And I
Fair enough.
also expressed that whatever is built there, I think it only makes sense that it is mindful of the NBR district where
Well,
this
that's what
building
I
would
would
be
hope.
constructed amongst, so.
Right. Yeah,
And
okay.
the architect was aware of the conditions within the NBR and the former B3.
Yeah, it would be helpful if it was complementary to what is, what we're attempting to do there. Go ahead.
If you're done. We are aware, and he's shown the site plan, so I'm not providing new information. If you look at the setback in your new zone, I believe it's not more than 10 feet from the sidewalk.
Right.
And if you look at ours, we are more than 10 feet, but we're not in that zone. But even though we want to try to set a theme that's compatible with what you guys envision for that new zone, we might, we aren't abiding by what's in the new zone because we're not in that zone, rather than not caring about what the
Sure,
zoning setback is.
okay. Interesting, all right. I believe all that you're saying. I'm not surprised that municipalities don't have to follow their own laws. But, yes, but I mean, it would be great if, as things progress, if you would consider seeking planning board at least comment. It would be helpful. We're in the process of gearing up. This district has been approved, and regardless of what the particular boundaries are, you're going to be on that street, and we anticipate that we'll be looking at one or more applications this year in 2016 related to that. So it would be great to, we'll also be working with the county because we have a strong interest in trying to create a streetscape, not just, we're trying to create a neighborhood, but we want to take advantage of the existing infrastructure and improve infrastructure by ideally putting in continuous sidewalks, and especially on the west side, something substantial in width. We're certainly looking for some way to put in a bike lane on one side, if not both, continuity with the rail trail, or connectivity with the rail trail at multiple points. And so, to the extent, and so we'll be working with the county on some of this. The village has put in some money for planning grant to try to deal with that.
Our board,
Yeah.
working with our village planner, has applied for a grant
Right.
through Ulster County, and the intention of the grant is to study how we improve the bicycle, pedestrian,
Yep.
and infrastructure along that route, so it dovetails with our zone change
Right.
within the NBR.
Right, so all I'm saying is that if we have a building that is on the street, but for some reason is not actually in this zone, and furthermore, you don't have to abide by the process, that we ask that you try to build into your schedule at least some opportunity to get feedback from the planning board at least, and ideally from the public at large about what is a public building. So,
Absolutely, and that's
thanks.
what we're trying to do here.
Okay. I'm
the public
I'm
at
not paying
large
close
and-
attention to this
yeah.
process, because I thought it was, until a moment ago, I thought it was coming to us, so
Yeah.
I didn't have to ask a lot of
It
questions.
will come to you in a less official manner, but you.
That's fine.
You know, we appreciate and look
Great.
forward to your feedback.
Okay, thanks.
You know, I think it'd be great if, maybe not tonight, but if at a future board meeting or the executive committee, we figure out some manner of communicating with the planning board or getting their input, or, you know, I think we may not be required to go before them, but we certainly are in partnership with our planning board. We respect them, and any input they have, like I said before, it just makes us smarter, makes us better.
I'm thinking that we should perhaps invite a or several planning board members to be a part of the meetings with the executive committee, just so that they're,
The only thing I would say is that, based on our trajectory with this project, the executive committee, assuming we continue to move forward, is kind of going to become defunct, essentially, because once we kind of move to an LDC,
that
that's
takes
really
over,
who's
right?
doing that. Yeah.
Okay. And just a question, the current draft blueprint, basically, is that on display in print copy anywhere?
Well, there's one of the pages is in the paper, and I don't,
Right.
one of the floor plans, first or second, I think. The rest is so much a work in progress that we've not really made an effort to circulate it broadly, because we know it's going to change, although
Right.
it's been circulated to all the boards. I don't think we've posted it, have we posted it on our website yet?
It's been circulated
Yeah.
to both boards.
It's not on our website yet, because we know it's going to change.
Right, yes.
If we looked at it, when we looked at it up here, there were some details for the police and courts, but there were just white spaces for the clerks and the building department. We know those spaces are too small to accommodate both the town and the village. So he hasn't developed that any further.
Marty, I think it's a true statement that it will technically change, but the draft that we're working with is a pretty solid draft in terms of the general concepts, a lot of the floor plan, big picture decisions. So absolutely, there will be more details as we work through the schematic design piece.
Even to the
But
point where
it's
there's some
very
shape
useful.
changes in the building.
But it's
perhaps
very
footprint
useful
changes.
for anyone to look at the point we we're at now in terms of what the building will look and feel like. I think it's a very useful document. It's not just kind of a wishy-washy draft.
I think it would be good to have a copy behind each of our boards as the meetings progress, even if it is somewhat outdated as things change.
Another form that we will do, we can certainly make an effort to do that with a projector or however else we like to do.
Until she gets up there, and we do have, we have a large-scale printer here in Village Hall, which we can certainly use to make copies that can be posted.
Can you do that from a PDF?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there's the poster behind Stacy, I printed off of our printer.
On a PDF. Because these are not digitized at all yet, they're just done on
That's, yeah.
paper with
that's fine.
pencil.
Mhm.
Oh, I was waiting until you finished.
speaking?
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Stacy Delareed. I live in the town, and I'm also the town building inspector. Sitting here listening to the conversation, I think that Marty is correct. This project is totally out of sequence. I've been in the construction industry all my adult life. The building plans are very premature. Some work has been done to kind of know what the courts need, to kind of know what the PD needs, but these plans could change very much. So to really put them out there and say this is going to be our building, I don't really believe that that's an avenue that you want to go down at this point. If the boards are going to consider sending this to the planning boards to take a look at, if they want it to be more like the new zone wants the building closer to the sidewalks. If this building gets moved closer to the sidewalks, there's a grade issue, and the entire building plan, the way it looks and everything could change. So, you know, we're very, very premature, in my opinion, on the design of this building. You know, you could work out the site issues now, work out all the legalese that needs to be done for the town and village, but as far as the design of this building, I feel it's very, very premature. I don't see that the way it's designed right now, if there's enough space for both the town and village. It needs to be enlarged somehow. The site, there are a lot of site constraints, so I would kind of hold off on that design issue. We don't have a needs assessment yet. The needs assessment hasn't been circulated to any of the employees to check to see if it's even accurate. So we're moving along too quickly and out of sequence. And I think Tim is right. I think Marty's right. We need to take our time, take a look at all the legalese and the LDC and everything that needs to be done there before we start jumping the gun and you know, trying to design a building that we don't know is going to work yet.
Okay, my point is that we have already seen a design, and it certainly wouldn't hurt to have it on display during our meetings. I understand that it can completely change, but it's just the fact that we've already seen one, and it wouldn't hurt.
Stacy,
It's been in the newspaper as well.
Yeah, Stacy, we've actually had numerous conversations with the architect about the uniqueness of the site, and actually before this architect was officially engaged by the town to design a building, he was initially engaged by the town exclusively to look at the site and to see what building could be constructed on this property. If he was sitting here, because we met with several individuals as we were investigating the potential of securing NYSERDA incentives for a new construction project this morning, and the architect, Joe Hurwitz, was in that meeting, and in that meeting this morning, he said that he has looked at this site down to the very inch. Like, that's why I feel like the basic site plan, the basic concept of the building is very solid and very far along. And the only thing Joe has said you need to maintain an open mind with is just, you know, some of the wall changes could be moved an inch or two here or there.
But also remember, Tim,
Some of them 18 feet, Tim.
and remember, Tim, too, just because you have potentially the square footage that's needed doesn't necessarily mean that the square footage works for the department. And like I said, the needs assessment hasn't been completed. It hasn't been reviewed. It hasn't been circulated to the departments to take a look at. Is this correct? And I can tell you that Joe has some incorrect information as of now. So I'm just saying the building design itself, not the site plan, the building design itself is very premature.
Sure, but I think the idea is that this is the draft that we have today on December 16th, and I am more open than you could imagine to the idea that that will change. It will be improved with continued conversation with board members, village and town staff. It will only get better from here, absolutely. And we should anticipate that the draft that we have on December 16th is not the floor plan that will be built.
Then why do you want to put it out there? Put out the site plan. That's my point.
It's already out there.
But my point is that to put out a building plan, a floor plan and a building plan that is going to change, could be drastically, okay, and have people study that and comment on that until you've got the proper pieces together, I think is premature.
I think one of the benefits of putting it out there is that you now have something to talk about and improve on. But if we don't put it out there, how do we have a discussion about making it better if we don't put it out there?
Okay,
I
well,
mean, we just have to make sure everyone understands, this is the rough draft, and we're going to work forward on this. But that's just the way I understood it.
The better, though, that you're referring to isn't something that gets better by public input, because we
Correct.
haven't even yet addressed getting it better by employee input. And that's what we need to get through first, is getting it better with employee input, finishing the programming. We have a draft which we got yesterday afternoon, and we immediately identified some things that are needing to be revised in that. The number of square feet for the town's building, village's building function, a number of square feet elsewhere for the clerks. So we know those things have to change, and they change the site plan too. They change the footprint of the building.
I'm inclined to agree with Stacy and with, what's your name?
George.
George.
Thank you.
Partly because I know, many of us I know have engaged in processes not unlike this, where you've been designing some kind of a facility, even a mixed-use facility. I have. And I know that I am not inclined to publish a draft of this sort because I know that we will receive 400 comments about the draft, and that we will be obliged to address those comments, even knowing that we've changed before those comments have been sent to us. We're going to spend a lot of time reviewing and responding to comments that already are irrelevant because we've moved on from that the second that we push a draft of this sort out. This is a work in progress by a professional architect who's going to have to, get input from us, I grant you, and we would be happy to get additional comment from people, but not on the particulars of a draft.
So
Alexander Hamilton did not knock over Jefferson while he was trying to draft the Constitution, although he had input in it.
So what I just wanted to say too about that is, and I appreciate that conversation, but when we had Joe come and we put on the wall those draft pieces, because they were a part of our meeting, they did enter the public record. So we just have to be aware of that too, that if that is the thing that the board wants to do, then we can no longer do that, because once you put that on the wall for a public meeting as a public document, then it is susceptible to the public as well. So I just wanted to make that known.
I wouldn't mind also just re-emphasizing that I am completely on the same page as Stacy. This is an early draft, but there's no way in heck that we are moving forward with a building unless, for instance, our building inspector is completely comfortable with it. That to me is an absolute. So just because we have a preliminary design, the process is ongoing, and we're in the midst of that process.
Right.
We are not rushing. We are not rushing anything. Wait, we need you on the mic again. Sorry.
It's just very premature to publish something that is in its most infancy at this point.
Michael was gonna.
Thanks, yeah. I generally agree with Stacy. If you haven't done a needs assessment yet, then your building layout and perhaps your building design and size footprint will certainly change. That I think you need that kind of information. If these documents are publicly available, at this point, it might not make a lot of sense to encourage people to provide feedback on the building layout if you haven't made those kinds of determinations. However, I would make a suggestion that from a public's point of view, it might be nice to engage the public early on through perhaps a questionnaire asking what would you like to see in a municipal building? Like, how would you like the flow of the building to be? Where do you want to walk in? What do you want to see when you walk in? What sort of wayfinding do you want to have in a building? What kind of relationship do you want to have? Do you want to see, these are questions about how people are going to use the building for decades to come. And having worked in a lot of institutional buildings, academic in particular, and municipal, it makes a huge difference how you engage the public when you first walk in. What do you see? What people do you meet? How do you get from place to place? And a second component, especially I'm sensitive to from academics, is how do the people in the building engage with one another? And one of the reasons I'm in favor of an intermunicipal building is because I'd like to make sure that you design it in such a way that the people who are there every day, staff people, and in particular elected officials, have spaces where they engage each other informally, because I believe that that's where you develop great ideas and you build trust, which is essential for having a strong government and a good community. So asking the public, perhaps through a questionnaire format, might be a worthwhile thing to do. The only other thing I would say from the planning board's point of view is, thank you, Rebecca, for your offer. But it seems like the executive committee is dealing with a lot of stuff that's not really in the planning board's purview, a lot of legal issues, and but a site plan might, at some point, earlier rather than later, it might be nice for the planning board to provide you feedback on that, because I think especially in light of this new district, we could perhaps offer some fresh eyes in terms of how we, who are envisioning this new district, how we might be able to help, provide a different viewpoint on or corroborate the kinds of things that you're planning to do there in terms of this district. Anyway, thank you.
Michael, what I would add to your comment, though, is I would not say that there has not been a needs assessment done. I would describe it as the project is in the midst of a needs assessment.
Okay.
There's no question about it that this architect has taken a very hard look at the existing layout at the temporary town hall, has looked at the village hall buildings, has looked at all of the different individuals who are employed by the town and the village. So
Okay.
he is absolutely in the midst of this needs assessment. He did not just create draft drawings
I didn't mean-
without like an incredibly thorough review of what we might need. And now the next step is to continue with that process.
Yeah, I didn't mean to disrespect the architect or any of you who've been involved. I'm not intensively involved in this. Like I said, I came tonight because I thought there was actually going to be a presentation with floor plans and stuff.
They did that on December 1st.
Well, sorry, I missed that. And I thought this was coming to the planning board, so I was kind of relaxed about when we would see it. So I was feeding off of what Stacy said, in that at some point you will want to ensure, I don't need to tell you about that part. So thank you for clarifying that. I just wanted to, more importantly, I thought from the public's point of view, I think there is an opportunity without engaging them in the getting down into the weeds about how big a closet space is, but more importantly, how does the public use the building? It's a public building. You want to know that. And I think you can do that. And then, as I said, the other thing is, how will you guys engage each other day after day? And space is incredibly important in affecting how that happens. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. And can we try to come to some consensus that we'll communicate or send some sort of contingent yet to be defined to a planning board meeting in January, just to discuss this project with them?
Second.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, do we want to decide, we want to decide that now, this evening, or do we want to decide that this is our last meeting for the year?
I can volunteer to give Michael the draft floor plans and site plan that I have, just to get some initial response, and he can share those with his colleagues on the planning board.
Well, since I'm the liaison, I can be the carrier for you. You can give it to me, and I'll give it to Michael.
Perfect, yeah, let's stick with like agreed upon protocol, that would be preferred.
And if you want to receive us at a certain meeting, invite us, and we'll figure out who to send.
Okay, thanks. Great.
I think it's really good that we're here tonight, and I think it's really important that we engage the public as early in the process as possible. You don't want to engage the public at the point where it's a done deal and everything's designed, and thank you for your input, but it doesn't matter anymore. So this is really good, and I think it'll be good to have another session in January. I just think, like I said, the more questions we get, if there's some we can't answer, that just makes us better.
Any other questions, comments from the public? Good. Anything from our boards? Or should we, do you want to talk about what date we will do another one of these sessions with some additional detail?
We can certainly do that. I don't know what the schedule is at the community center, so whatever we would decide upon would have to be very tentative until we could see what the availability of the community center is.
I thought you were also suggesting, wasn't the idea floated?
That's
that
right, we
would
talked
do
about
one of these prior to
Yes.
a town board meeting?
Yeah, I believe I sent that
So
email out and
started-
forgot that I sent that out.
started,
Yes. So we could do, then it would be the third or fourth Thursday in January.
Neil has already reminded me, 3 of us will be up in all.
You have the first, your elected official training.
So the 14th is not an option, that's the 3rd.
Oh, okay, so we could, January 21st as a possibility. Does that work for people before a regularly scheduled town board meeting?
For the town board meeting,
Yeah.
it's Thursday night?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it should be up.
Yeah, it should be.
Well, you've got before police commission meeting?
We could also push, or ask Joe if he'd want to do the police commission meeting on the 28th.
We could also pick another date in January if you want to do it some other date at the community center.
January 28th.
Well, also the more,
Ryan's pulling up the schedule, hopefully.
Well, the second Thursday in January.
That's the 14th, that doesn't work.
We can't do,
Yeah.
because we're at AOT. So do it the following Thursday.
The third Thursday, yeah.
I think the issue is that
Police commission.
it's the police commission meeting.
We'll do it before the police commission.
That,
that is too early in the
that's pretty
day.
early, I think, to do that.
Yeah,
Why don't we
following the
tentatively,
police commission.
we'll ask Joe if they're willing to.
To move the
postpone
police commission.
commission.
I think
We can
that,
just hold that as a tentative date, and we'll get back to you as soon as we contact.
But the
There'll be
21st,
public notices in the newspaper, once we finalize it, we can.
now the other thing I will say is that the town board did not call a meeting tonight, so we're having this
Right.
conversation without a quorum of the board as well. So if this is something that the village board wants to do, that's great, and I can bring it back to our town board for tomorrow's meeting, but we couldn't formally announce this as,
Right.
till tomorrow. But if you want me to bring back to the town board that the village
21st,
board
Thursday.
would like us to do this on the 21st, I will gladly do that.
let's, can we just should we vote, or should we just by consensus?
Why don't you vote just to do it formally?
That the 21st would work for at least a quorum of our board, and that, since it's gonna be on your facility, or in your facility,
If you don't mind me making the recommendation, why don't you vote to have for the info session contingent on the town board also agreeing to that time?
okay.
And we can have our clerk's office contact their clerk's office in the morning and.
Our clerk will
inform
talk to
them.
your-
That's right, we'll do meeting.
So do you wanna move that, Mr.?
What time on that 21st of January? You want to say 6:30 since your meeting starts at 7:30?
Sure. 6:30, if that sounds fine. Now, do you guys want to do that as a joint meeting, or do you want to do it like we're doing tonight, which is a meeting of the village board that some of us townies decide to come to?
No, I think it's gotta be a town meeting.
No, I know it'll be a town meeting, but I'm asking if the village board.
Stacy has a suggestion, but we gotta hear it in the mic, or else the video is boring.
Can I make a suggestion that the executive committee that's handling the project at this time put on the public information session, so it alleviates the boards of having to do it, okay? You put on, the committee puts on the information session, you draw up what it is you want to talk specifically about that night with the public, whether it's flow, whether it's site design, well, whatever, okay? And you could have that without
Without the approval of
the approval of the boards. You know,
That's
and-
easier,
and
so
the-
then we could do that.
So the committee brings this to the people, and the board sits and listens, but the committee actually brings this to the people, like any other committee in the town and how they operate when they
Yeah.
take on projects.
And based on the feedback I heard, everyone on the executive committee, I think, would be fine with that idea.
That's a great suggestion.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
Okay, so then just to reiterate that point, 6:30, the executive committee will be hosting another community forum on.
And the 21st works, like,
On the
what about doing it earlier?
You can have it anytime you want.
We can have it earlier in the month.
If that's,
Yeah, there's pluses and minuses. You sure want the public to know everything that's going on, but if there's nothing new to present, is that a worthwhile thing to ask the public to take their time to come back out to hear the same thing that was presented the last time?
I think, from my experience, it's always fine to err on the side of being communicative and repeating yourself, because some people might be paying attention to this meeting tonight, and then they're not again in the future.
and I'm going to tell you now from my school board days that I remember being shocked my first year on the school board when we did 5 or 6 of those community forums at various places all across the town. And then once we scheduled the vote, we had, 50 people show up at the meeting saying, you never told us about this. So it's just going to happen no matter what. So we have to do our best to keep doing that, and knowing that no matter what we're going to do, there will still be a good number of people who will say, well, I didn't know anything about
Do
it.
you want to struggle with
Yeah.
another date besides the 21st, though?
I mean, I felt like the
Good to have it in
21st
conjunction with
works.
The town board meeting, because then the town board members who.
We could then
want to be there
potentially
can
act
see
if there was something that we needed to act
That's the first
upon
town
anyway.
board meeting of January, the 21st?
There's an
No, we're gonna have an
organizational
organizational meeting.
we think.
An oral meeting.
That's a busy meeting, though.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
not,
so
that's not
let's-
a meeting we could do this stuff.
So let's stick with,
Stay with the
it's 6:30 on the 21st.
Yep.
But it's an exec building committee presentation. So it's not a meeting of any sort, it's
No,
just
we just
a-
know the community center will be available, and then
And
why
we're
don't we
gonna,
ask?
but we'll have both
Clerks.
municipalities publicize
Right.
the presentation.
Okay, that's. I was looking
Is there
for-
any interest in having a joint meeting afterwards, or not? We don't have any scheduled for next year.
You know,
yet.
what I could say is that maybe what we would want to do is the executive committee will certainly meet before then, and if we feel that we're in a place where we would make a recommendation to the joint boards where we need to take action, maybe we'll then do that now, but I don't think we necessarily at this point have to schedule a joint meeting unless.
We have
the deal
enough,
does
we
work.
have enough time to publicize
Do
it.
you
Isn't the goal
folks
to have joint meetings?
Before then, don't you?
Marty?
You folks have other scheduled meetings in January before
Yes.
then, don't you?
Yes.
I can't tell you what the timeline will be for our various documents to get through their queue, but
Absolutely.
your suggestion of at least tentatively scheduling this as a joint meeting, because you have another one before, and you all have that 2-meeting rule, maybe timing would be such that you all could review documents at your previous meeting, and jointly, we could all sit there and unanimously perhaps pass documents, and then we can move forward with what we want
What we could do is we
to.
could notice it too, and if it appears that we're not going to need to meet, we'll just cancel the meeting. Want to do
I'm in
that?
favor of Dennis's suggestion of calling it.
Yeah.
I agree.
So we're,
Now, we can't vote tonight.
Yeah. Well,
There's only
we can
two
bring
of
it to
us,
the-
but-
But you can tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. We can take it to our meeting tomorrow night.
wait, so your suggestion was that it would be a joint meeting on the 16th?
On the
Or
21st.
On the
21st.
At 7:30?
Second.
At 7:30, okay, got
Right,
it, yeah.
So why don't we vote on that so the clerk can
So-
communicate to the town clerk tomorrow?
Perfect.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then you guys will sort that out on your own?
Yep, we'll discuss it tomorrow.
Great. Good idea, Dennis. So, we're good this evening. We'll close this presentation, and we had a little business as a village board, so you guys are free to go.
Thank you, guys.
It's always fun.
Next time we'll do it at our place.
Can I take a salad?
I hope you serve cookies when you host.
All right.
Thanks, Marty.
Excuse me, Councilman Torres, can you take it outside? Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to motion that we accept this agenda. All in favor? Aye. Okay, no announcements. Anyone here for public comments for our village board meeting? Nope.
Comment on the town, this whole thing tonight was not on the town's website. Our committee didn't really even know about this. And I had a New Year's Eve committee meeting at 7 o'clock, but I couldn't get there before now. I left that one to come here.
That's one of the reasons we're doing something in the town in January.
Well, I know that, but still, it's now on the town's website, which is not good.
Was
Okay.
that on their website?
Towns.
It was on ours.
I don't know.
Yeah, the town board did not officially know about this. Thank you, Jim.
So we need to, we have bills and claims to put forward.
Thank you, Carol.
We need to do a resolution.
You want to read out what the resolution is, or somebody should?
So I'll move that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Or no, now we do roll call.
Yeah, do the roll call.
Trustee Young,
Aye.
Trustee Rotzler,
Aye.
Mayor Rogers,
Aye.
Trustee Rocco,
Aye.
Trustee Karen.
Aye.
Okay, next item, Joint Town Village Municipal Center. I think we covered that. Next, unless anyone wants to talk about something as a village
Again?
board. Maybe, Tom, you could summarize what we just discussed? I'm just,
It was a good discussion, and
All
we
right.
covered all the points.
so next item, recommendation from Building Inspector Bryant Arms that the village board consider the circumstances for an unsafe building at 5 Mulberry. I believe Don Kerr's been working on this, and he was going to provide us with some update.
The property owner had originally been informed that the debris needed to be cleared from the site by November 30th. There apparently has been some snafu with some of the paperwork and some of the checks between mortgage companies and insurance companies, and I am told verbally that the situation has been resolved, and a check will be in the hands of the contractor who is to remove the debris within 24 hours. And I see no reason not to expect that to be the case, but I think it'd be wise for the village to take action pending notice of, take action so that if something happens wrong and the work is not set to commence in a quick fashion, that the village can take that project and move it forward. So I think I would like to make sure I'm referring to the proper language when I say, is it a 90A? What is the
The
action?
code, it's 90-6.
Okay. I would like to make a
Emergency
motion-
cases is the name of 96.
I would like to make a motion that we invoke that particular provision with a deadline of the 21st of December for action, with the understanding that if we are given written documentation that shows that the work has commenced or is about to commence before the 21st, that no action be taken by the village and that we allow the homeowner to proceed with clearing the site.
Allow the homeowner to proceed?
Property owner, the property owner's contractor.
Okay. I'm
It's
sorry,
in the
I-
responsibility of the property owner rather than the village.
But failing that, if we don't have such documentation or evidence in writing that the work has commenced or is about to commence on the 21st, that we would move forward as a village to make that clearing happen.
So I'm just looking at notes from both yourself and our attorney, so I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. So the property owner is waiting for a check to be sent from their insurance company to C2G because the property owner had worked with C2G to get this cleanup complete. And once C2G has the check from the insurance company, then they can go ahead and start this cleanup. And the expectation is that the check should be in C2G's hands momentarily, as soon as tomorrow.
Yes.
So what we're saying is, if there is no check in C2G's hand by the 21st, then the board is invoking section 90-6 and undertaking the work at the owner's expense upon notification to the owner. And my understanding would be that then the village would instruct a contractor of our choice, ideally to clean up the site as soon as the very next day on December 22nd.
And if the mayor's language was clearer than mine, Ryan, I'll accept that as a friendly amendment. If he had better language than me, he can use that.
Mine wasn't really like I was just kind of repeating it back, just that I understood.
Yeah.
I was just hoping to echo what you were describing to make sure I understood
Well,
it
you
as
just
well.
may have been more articulate in your language, so
I was really just looking for you to say, yeah, that is what I said, so, you know.
yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
So is that a second?
And
So that's the second by Dennis and.
the one other bit of information I'd like to make sure the board knows, that once whoever pulls the trigger, whether it be the property owner or the village, it will take as much as 7 to 10 days for C2G to get the proper permitting to actually begin the work. So you should know that. So it wouldn't start the next day, no matter what happens. So
But the process would
the
start
process
the
would,
next
yeah,
day.
yeah,
Okay.
the clock would be, the process would be.
So
run.
if C2G does not have a check from the insurance company on the 21st, then we would instruct C2G or a contractor like C2G to begin the work on the 22nd.
Yes.
I have a question on that. Do we need to engage in a bid process for that
Excellent question.
RFP?
Good question. I was instructed by our attorney that because we're invoking 96, which is an emergency situation, the standard procurement policy would not be required, so we could use a contractor of our choice.
I'm finding this entire process to be very instructive. I mean, we're dealing with what could have been considered an emergency situation since October, and we're not acting in an emergency fashion at all. And I would like some input, further input from our building inspector about 96. And I would like instruction also from our attorney about how we could have more effectively dealt with this, still within realms of reason. I don't mean, that there would be an overnight decision, although I suppose an overnight decision is what you would want in an emergency. But we're talking about an over 2-month decision. So I would like further instruction.
Are you looking for Bryant to make a comment right now?
No,
Oh.
I want 90-6 to be looked at, and I want input from our attorney about how we could better deal with emergency situations.
So that's separate though from what we just, did we take a vote?
We didn't vote.
We did
We
not
did
take
not.
a
I have a
motion.
question before
This
we
is
do.
part of
Okay,
discussion.
we're still discussion, got it, okay.
If we have to wait, we have to begin the permitting process. Is it possible for us to evoke it now and then rescind it, should that check end up in the right hands tomorrow? Because let's get the ball rolling rather than waiting until the 21st and then invoking it and then going through the permitting process. We are extremely lucky that there has not been snow or overwhelming amounts of rain. I don't even want to think about what kind of chemicals and beauty salon products are in the bottom of that pile, and that would all be washing away. I would like to not wait until the last second and then start the ball rolling on another process if we can avoid that.
So that seems like a friendly amendment to Don's resolution.
So I think we could instruct C2G to begin the permitting process on behalf of the village.
Or we could ask them if that's even possible.
Yeah, and make
right?
sure
They
that
might-
they could revert that permitting process, put a new name in it, or do what they need to do. I think that's a great idea.
Yes, I agree.
I like that.
So I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
So who's going to make that call to C2G tomorrow to see if that's an option?
I certainly can do that. I wonder if the call would be to C2G or the permitting agency, but whoever it is, I'll find out and make the call.
Okay. So Don will do that. I think that makes a great deal of sense. Glad you added that, Dennis.
Note to self.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Or do we want Ryan to repeat back?
I'm gonna have to get the specific wording off.
Okay.
The tape tomorrow. I have a
That's
whole
fine.
bunch of stuff
Very
going
good.
on.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, anything else? We do not have exec session, then I'm comfortable with, did you have something?
No, I just wanted to say I will be in Village Hall tomorrow. Our meeting is here with,
Oh, right, we're here
New
at
York
10
Rising.
a.m. talking to New York Rising about the hardening of the sewage treatment plant. So that meeting is taking place tomorrow at Village Hall.
okay. So if you want, whoever's here can take a look at what you have.
And as this is our last meeting of the year, I'd like to hope that everyone who celebrated it had a great Hanukkah. I'd like to wish a happy Christmas time to everyone who celebrates that holiday, and a good New Year to everyone. And it's been a great year as a new board.
I get to do all of those things, and so I thank you twice.
That's great.
Okay, I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. So, New York Rising tomorrow at,
That's right.
I know, I was thinking.